It's been a lot of things this year, a lot of good projects, good programs, great hacks. I would be really interested to see more builders become take a path that is sustainable for them. I think that's really the goal for us in the next 5 years. It's a huge technical mission and vision. But
Hi everyone, welcome to Builder Activation Podcast. Our guest today is Sarah Diam, founder and CEO of Fil-B, a team backed by Protocol Labs that focuses on supporting builders across the FileCoin ecosystem. So we'll talk about how FileCoin is evolving beyond cold storage, what builder activation looks like in practice, and what we learned from the FileCoin Buildathon we ran together with AKINDO. So before we get started, how are you doing today, Sarah?
yeah, thanks for having me on, and nice to meet everyone. My name is Sarah. It's great. Yeah, it's coming up to the holidays. I'm very excited. It's been a lot of things this year, a lot of good projects, good programs, great wave hacks. So yeah, a lot of things have happened in 2025. So I'm very happy about the year.
So where are you recording from right now?
I'm in Zurich right now in Switzerland. Yeah, I just moved here like a few months ago. Before this, I was in New York. So it's a very new city for me.
Oh, so you just moved to Switzerland. Is it
Yeah.
very cold these days?
It's like 1 degree, 2 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it's kind of cold, but it's not snowing yet, so it's still fine. It's nice. There are also quite a lot of Web3 people here.
So I saw that you studied in Singapore. So are you actually from Singapore or did you just spend some time there?
I'm Singaporean. So yeah, I grew up in Singapore and then I moved out about 6 years or so ago. I left Singapore. But yeah, Singaporean, studied there, worked there, my first few jobs. Yeah.
Actually, I lived in Singapore, so I was in Singapore just a few weeks ago. So I really like kaya toast, and I also have like a lot of Singaporean friends.
Yeah, Singapore is nice. I'm kind of missing the warmth, and I'm glad you had fun. Yeah, you're from Korea, right?
Yeah, I'm from South Korea.
South Korea?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Yeah. I like South Korea too. I've been to Seoul and yeah, mostly Seoul. I've been to Seoul quite a few times. It's nice.
So how's your day been so far before jumping into this recording?
Good. Yeah, today is pretty chill, more relaxed. Just tidying up before the holidays. And then after today, I'm on a holiday all the way till January. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So could you briefly introduce yourself and your role as founder and CEO of FieldB?
I'm Sarah. I'm the founder and CEO of Fil-B, which stands for Fil Builders. We are part of the FileCoin network. We used to be part of Protocol Labs, and then in the past 2 years, we have spun up to become our own company. And we are considered a public good developer experience team for the FileCoin ecosystem. So this includes like from the very technical end of the spectrum, from protocol development of the FileCoin Ethereum virtual machine that sits on FileCoin, all the way to builder programs that we run for the FileCoin community and helping people to build. So for example, we did a wave hack with AKINDO to have multiple teams start building. Actually, we got about 100 teams to start building on the FileCoin on-chain cloud, which is the new feature and product that is coming out from the FileCoin ecosystem. We've also written the documentation and starter kits for a lot of things in the FileCoin world, including the FileCoin on-chain cloud. And then we also run the FileCoin Orbit program, which is the ambassador program around the world. So we enable different technical ambassadors in different countries. I think we ran about 45 events in this year alone. And that is like technical workshops around the world. All these cool technical ambassadors just learning how to do it themselves and then going out there and building a community around decentralized storage and decentralized infrastructure out there in their local communities, which is great. And then we also run the socials and virtual bootcamps for the Fil Builder community, which includes like Telegram, Twitter, and also end-to-end from technical all the way to community. We do a whole bunch of different DevRel things for the FileCoin ecosystem.
That sounds amazing, like a lot of work. So, okay, could you walk us through your career background before working on FileCoin and FieldB?
Yeah. So it's been about 10 years in tech. I started at Microsoft, so was really lucky, got a job there. Started doing marketing first, and then I did product marketing, and then I did product management. And in my last few months, about a year at Microsoft, I did a transition into developer relations because it seemed to be a really nice sweet spot between technical product management and technical community engagement, as well as touching base with the engineers. And so it seemed to be a really fun thing to do. I was running a bunch of hackathons at Microsoft and also organizing as part of large conferences like Ignite. So that was like 5 years at Microsoft. And then I wanted to try something very different, something in the public good space. So I was looking at the Singapore government, and I got a role at GovTech Singapore, which is in charge of developing the national technology stack for Singaporean citizens. So it includes things like national digital identity, COVID tracking applications, and so on. So I was part of a team that was looking at how to facilitate talent moving across from Silicon Valley to Singapore to help to grow this stack, as well as any technical partnerships. So I was based in San Francisco. So that's when I started moving out of Singapore. So I did that for about 2 years. And then I was really interested about what is the opposite end of centralized decision-making in the government. And the opposite end of the spectrum is, of course, decentralization. So I was like, the decentralized internet and Web3 seems really interesting. And so I was looking around for a role, and I got into Protocol Labs as they were about to ship and launch the FileCoin virtual machine. So I joined the team about 3 to 4 months before the launch. And in my first 2 months, I had to run a hackathon. And yeah, it's just been nonstop since then. So it's been about 3 years in crypto. So that was Protocol Labs doing FileCoin. And then I spun out in the past 2 years to start my own company. And, we do Fil-B, but we also transitioned to start another unit, which is chain agnostic, called Germina Labs. And so we work with multiple different chains as well. And, we're still very committed to FileCoin, and it's been awesome. And we love the FileCoin ecosystem, and we want to keep working on it. But it's also good to have like a view of what's happening outside in the other ecosystems to see, the trends in Builder, trends in hackathons, the trends in how builders are now more focused on, or chains want projects to focus on continuous iteration and product foundations, and then hopefully becoming a founder, as opposed to like doing many hackathons and, just having a ton of builders, just building on chain activity. So it's nice to see all these different trends across the ecosystem, and then seeing how you can apply that back to FileCoin and apply that back to just being better DevRels overall. So all in all, like that's my experience so far in my career. It's a bit of a longer answer, but it's been a lot. Yeah.
Yes, but there are so many different Web3 ecosystems and projects. But among many Web3 ecosystems, what made you decide to focus your work on Filecoin builders?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think when I first started at Protocol Labs, there were many chains out there, right? There's like Ethereum, Polygon. And I think what I was looking for was, I think I didn't really know the crypto world very well. I knew what Bitcoin was, I knew Ethereum, I knew that tokens were what was driving a lot of the market. But I didn't really feel excited, although I think it's important, but I didn't really feel super excited about the crypto economics of it. I think what I was very curious about was how can a token have utility, or how can decentralized infrastructure bring utility and bring meaningful impact to people that are trying to use it. And so, like I think data has been a very big thing, a very big concept that we've, in the industry, not just in tech, but now it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. Everyone's always thinking about data. And I was like, that's a pretty hard problem to solve. And which Web3 chain is out there solving it today? And I saw what FileCoin was doing, and I was like, if this works, this is like going to be revolutionary. It's going to change a lot of the systems that we have today. A lot of the prominent players in the space, in the industry today in tech, we rely on a few players, and most of the time we rely on them because they hold a lot of our data. So if we are decentralizing that data, that could really change the game. And so I was like, hey, FileCoin and PFS, that sounds really cool. And so I chose to join it. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So for someone hearing about Filecoin today, how would you describe what Filecoin is?
Yeah. So Filecoin is CLI5. Like if I were to try to explain it like someone's five, Filecoin is a decentralized network of storage providers. So the idea is, rather than having your data sit in a single privately owned data center, even though it can be distributed around the world, but if a single conglomerate or corporation is holding on to your data, you have to go by their terms and conditions. You can read through the entire terms and conditions, but you have to go by the terms and conditions, and you don't really have an alternative. And so if they decide to censor your data or delete your data, there's nothing really much that you can do. So the idea behind Filecoin is that you have a blockchain, and blockchains are really good as ledgers. So the main utility of a blockchain in any case really is to be a ledger for anything that we want to record. So the Filecoin blockchain operates as a ledger of the storage transactions that are being, or the storage deals that are being made with the chain. So your data isn't stored on the chain because no chain can accommodate, more than like, I don't know, there's no way you can accommodate like a petabyte of data, right? Or even like a gig is like way too much for a chain to hold. So we have a bunch of storage providers that are different people around the world. These are individuals or maybe little companies that have like huge, like have data stacks. So they have like a bunch of hard drives, they have a lot of data capacity. And so what they do as a storage provider is they commit their data to the blockchain ledger to say, hey, I commit this amount of data. So now it's committed data capacity on the Filecoin network. And so when someone wants to store that data, you know how much capacity that is, you store the data, And then the storage provider has to prove every 24 hours that they have your data and that your data is protected and being stored and it exists. And so proving that to the blockchain is the cryptographic test that they have to prove every 24 hours. It's like a cryptographic challenge that you'll have to prove. And so then the blockchain does not penalize them or does not slash them for the collateral that they have staked to the chain. So it's kind of a guarantee that your data gets stored and persist. And so if you know your data exists, you know someone's holding on to your data. Of course, there are many other parts of data management that need to be considered that we are solving today, like privacy. How do you make sure it's encrypted? How do you make sure, someone's not opening up their hard drive and viewing your files? Like, these are all things to consider as well. But the idea is that, today in stores, like, I don't know I can't remember how many pips of data that we have as a network, but it is the largest decentralized storage network that exists today out there. And so there's a bunch of things that we can do with it, but that is the point of FileCoin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for explaining. It's a lot of like tech stuff. So the next question is like you lead a team fully focused on builder experience. So what do you think actually makes builder support effective and beyond grants or hackathons?
I think what makes builder support really effective is, and I think it's hard because it's the hardest thing to do. It's the simplest thing, is the hardest thing to do at the same time. And I think the answer is really having a human that they can talk to, that they know, that they can build a relationship with, is one of the most important things. And the reason why I say that is that, I've run with and this is like across my career, I've done like multiple hackathons, I've done like multiple DevRel roles of supporting, and you could have like the most polished hackathon and you can have the best documentation, and that goes really far. Like, you need really good documentation. That's also really important. But many people can have very good documentation. And I think the times when I see builders stay with an ecosystem, most of the time it's not because the documentation is the best or the grant amounts are the highest. That's not what makes them stay in an ecosystem. And when I say stay, I mean like, if the chain is not doing well, they continue to keep building, or they continue to try to figure out problems to solve, to help and contribute technically. They stay because like they know the people there, and they start, most of the time, the first point of contact is always going to be the DevRel person that is talking to them. And having someone that is not a bot on Telegram answering your questions, or having someone that just replies to a comment and just be like, hey, I'll help you out, or like, hey, how's your project doing? It goes a really long way. And it's hard too, right? Because most of the time you have like 2 to 5 DevRels, and you have like a community of thousands of people. It's really hard for your DevRels to do that. But then over time, the idea is that you, as a DevRel, you connect with them and you introduce them to more people in the network. That helps to make it stickier for them to stay in the ecosystem, and they feel more supported, and they feel like, Web3 is very volatile. Token prices change every day. Hype goes up, hype goes down. But if they know that there are people that they know, that it makes them more incentivized to like wake up in the morning and be like, yeah, I guess I'll come back to the community that I know, because I can figure out my way. I know who to connect with. And this is coming from like, I think this made it very clear to me when like earlier this year, like this builder that has been in FileCoin for like 2 years now. And I first met him at like a hackathon that I was running in my very early start at Protocol Labs. And he's like, yeah, the only reason why, like, one of the key reasons why I'm still here is because like you made such a difference by like responding to my messages and picking up my calls like in the middle of the night. I mean, it was like technical questions that had to be answered, and there were like pain points, and like I was answering them. He was like, yeah, I mean, that's why I stayed. So I think that's usually the most effective thing that you can do to make builders really stay. Of course, it comes with like other things, like you have to be, your tech has to work, your documentation has to be there, starter kits have to be there, you have to run programs to do these things. But I think like at the very end of the day, I think that's probably the most important thing.
Okay, thank you. From this answer, I can already like guess well from your experience, like what signals tell you that a builder program is working well for both builders and the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think DevRel is a really hard one to answer, because this is like a classic organizational challenge that I think many organizations face, is like, where does DevRel sit? So it depends. Sometimes DevRel sits in marketing, and for some projects I think that makes sense. You need your DevRel to go on crypto Twitter and have a huge share of voice, and to make sure that they are a thought leader in the space. And some DevRels and some chains do a fantastic job of that. And I think the KPIs there are very different. So like your builder ecosystem signals would be like, are builders talking about your project and your chain on Twitter? Is there a good share of voice? Is there engagement with the post? And like when you're at conferences, how loud is your project showing up in those spaces? So I think these are like marketing signals that I think it's different. I feel in Web 2, I feel like it wasn't as important, at least because Web 2 is more mature. It's been around for a longer time. The organizations are so big that marketing is separate or far away from like DevRel. So DevRel doesn't really have to worry so much about share of voice. Like, it's important, but it's not that important, right? But in Web 3, because it's smaller and everything is so easily influenced by how people think or what people say that I can see how marketing and share of voice across builders is also a very good signal to indicate what people are thinking and to sway the views of more builders out there who are new and they're like, oh, I guess everyone's talking about this chain, I'll go join this chain. So I think that's one important signal in crypto. The other signal is, of course, like having projects that build and keep building. Like you said, like you can tell from my previous answer, builders that are continuously coming back in the ecosystem. And maybe this project A doesn't work, but they are like, the system is cool enough, the project is cool enough. I want to try to build project B because project A didn't work, and they keep coming back, right? And like ultimately, if they become a core contributor, like that's a humongous win. That's when you know that like, okay, your builder programs have worked out really well. Another way your builder programs work out well is if projects continue, like they continue and they become founders and they become like startups. They don't always have to become founders or startups, but you kind of want, I think a signal is like when a project is mature and it starts to have adoption. So it could be like a technical tool, for example, that I've seen some NPM packages or some like SDKs are like, Builder came up with it and then they built it and it has high adoption and like that's great. I think that's a win. If a project raises pre-seed, Series A, also a win on your chain. So I think those are all signals that your builder programs are working out really well.
Okay, thank you. But then from FieldB's perspective, like what are the biggest blockers builders face when trying to build real products on FileCoin?
Yeah, I mean a bunch. Like I think this exists in most ecosystems. There's always pain points. I think, FileCoin is a technically very complex project compared like relative to many other projects out there. I think we just for example, like we are one of the earliest chains to have ZK proofs before ZK proofs were even a trending topic. Like way back like 5 years ago, we had ZK proofs as part of our chain consensus. So the technical depth of FileCoin is very deep. But because of that, it also leads to like many things that need to be solved. And as it gets solved, like builders have to maybe sometimes wait for certain changes to be made. So for example, our FileCoin EVM, right? We launched a VM in 2023. And this was to enable people to build on top of FileCoin and to have programmatic storage. It's come a long way since then. It has allowed us to build the FileCoin on-chain cloud, which is what is launching next year, early next year. And that really means that builders can do cross-chain storage in a much simpler way than they could before. And so back to the EVM itself is that we built the FileCoin EVM with Wasm under the hood. It was meant to be a VM that could support different languages. So we chose not to take an EVM out of the box from Ethereum to take like 100% an EVM because we wanted to build a VM that could support Ethereum and Solidity today, but maybe could support like Rust and maybe Solana in the future. And so because of that, we have a custom VM. And if you have a custom VM, it requires maintenance and like making sure that it's keeping up parity with like the other big VMs out there. Like, if we had a Rust VM, we'll have to make sure that it's compatible with Solana's VM and how that is upgrading because these things upgrade all the time. And then similarly for EVM, like EVM just put out the Fusaka upgrade. All these upgrades are coming. We also have to make sure that we have parity with these VMs. So this sometimes leads to like blockers that builders face, which we have solved to date, but it's like always something that we have to look out for where like maybe the Solidity compiler is like incompatible and we need to be able to support that function. Or maybe like guess estimation is different in our VM versus EVM and we have to come up with a workaround or like something to smoothen out the developer experience. So these are things that we're constantly looking out for our builders. I think that's definitely one chunk of things to do. And then I think the other thing is probably around, and this is something that has been solved and will be solved once the FileCoin on-chain cloud launches, which is why we're very excited for that, is that for the 5 years that FileCoin has been around, this 2026 will be our 5th year. We've provided strong storage guarantees. But because of the cryptographic challenges that I mentioned earlier that storage providers have to solve in order to prove that they have the data, all these processes add up. And so when you store your data, it's like cold storage, which means that it's storage that you can store it. It takes 18 to 24 hours to store the data, and it takes 18 to 24 hours to retrieve the data, to unencrypt it, decrypt it, and then view the data. So it takes time, right? And it's great if you have institutional archives that you want to archive and like park there, but it's not great when you want to do things on the go, right? Like any application that you run today, there's no way you need to wait like 24 hours to retrieve an image. Like it just doesn't, you need sub-second like retrievals. You need like a content delivery network. And so this is something that has been a blocker for Filecoin for a long time. And it's why like it's hard for us to get adoption. We've gone through iterations of like building a cross-chain service with an off-chain client to enable people from like dApps, and we actually deployed this to the C chain on Avalanche for Avalanche to like users to build a dApp natively and then call through an event to the FileCoin chain to then get the storage deal processed and all. But because the storage time was still so long, it was still really long to get back to Avalanche. Like, it worked, it just took really long. And so with the FileCoin on-chain cloud, like, we're excited because like this is the first time we have a new type of proof, which is a lot lighter and actually sits on the smart contract layer, other than sitting on the like really heavy ZK proof layer that I talked about earlier on. And we're working out like the relation between the two to make it like make sure that it's integrated with crypto economics, make sure that it's integrated with the crypto security guarantees that we have at the consensus layer. So these are things that we're working on. But right now, the FileCoin on-chain cloud, it allows builders to like store the data really fast and to retrieve it. And you can even use IPFS as a gateway to store your data and have it automatically backed up to FileCoin, which for some reason in the past 5 years we never did, but now we are doing. So I think these are things that are going to be solved for builders, and we're going to be looking so much more into the cross-chain space of allowing dApps that sit on many different chains to cross-chain call to FileCoin and store and retrieve their data ASAP. So I feel like those are the blockers that like the EVM parity and the cold storage. These are things that like are being solved, but it's one of the most common blockers that our builders face in FileCoin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for explaining. How does Fil-B help teams move from early experimentation to production-ready sustainable products?
Yeah, I think it depends on the project that we're working with. We've worked in many different projects in the past like 3 years and they take very different routes. Typically, how we work with them is from Hackathon, depending on who submits, like all the submissions, we look at projects and, there are projects that we think are technically strong and have good product, at least ecosystem fit, not yet product market fit. That's something that still needs to be validated. But if we think they have good ecosystem fit of like partners in the ecosystem, or maybe the FileCoin chain will be very interested in having such a project, we reach out to them and be like, hey, are you going to consider building? What do you want to keep doing? And then, yeah, honestly, it's just a lot of mentoring there. I can mention all the different automated ways that we've done it, like the trackers, the like, even when we do wave hacks, like it's great to have platforms that are automated to help push these things along. But at the end of the day, it's like you need that focus from individuals, like people, to like look at a project and be like, how are you going? How has this been progressing? What support do you need today? And if like sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's marketing, and we do amplify things for them. And then most of the time it's grants. And so we look into what kind of grant programs would be the most suitable for these different projects. Bunch of public goods funding in FileCoin, there's Pro PGF, there's Retro PGF, there are also builder grants. And so we make sure that we try to match these grants, and then we reach out to them and be like, hey, how's user adoption? And it's normal. Like, I think it's a hard problem to solve. And I feel like many chains face this issue of like, builders want to be founders. It's not easy to be a founder. We all know it's not easy to be a founder. And so sometimes builders move along the pipeline, but then for various reasons, have to go back into the flywheel of like, let me go build something else again, or let me go find a new team. Sometimes it's also like helping them find the right project team. So it'd be like, you can't just be engineers, you need a product, you need marketing, you need a BD person so that you can actually have the first 100 users. So all these different things. And then I think at the end of the day, we try to create showcase stages for them. So either it's like a virtual demo day, or it's like at the FileCoin Dev Summit or at the FileCoin event, we try to give them spaces where they can showcase their project. We work with our partners, like for example, in Buenos Aires, we worked with Crecimiento to get them into the startup pitch competition. Of course, they had to prove their way along the competition itself, but like making sure that they have ways to go present and try their best at product market fit. And so we try to nurture them along that way. Honestly, everything in Web3 and everything changing so quickly, the trends changing so quickly, like if AI trend comes or the ZK trend comes or like cross-chain, whichever the trend is, right? Then these projects have to adapt to these different trends so that they can start to get people to use their product. Yeah, so it's hard, but it's a lot of hand-holding. It's a lot of like knowing how each team is progressing and working with them. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds is a lot of work. How many people are you working with?
We have 6 people, mostly engineers or technical dev advocates on the team.
Okay, thank you. Why did FileCoin and FieldB choose to collaborate with AKINDO for the FileCoin Buildathon?
Yeah, I think we have done a lot of hackathons in the past. I think we still continue to do quite a few hackathons, especially with the ETH Global and Code. I think in the year that we launched FEM, we did maybe 30 hackathons in total, which is a lot to do in 1 year. And I think we had a lot of good projects that came out of it, but we felt like the gap was a continuation for the projects to keep going and grow in a way where it's like it's not like we give you a 50K grant or 10K grant and you go build and we don't have a way to check in with you on how you're doing. That would be really interesting to see if we try out a new format of AKINDO, which is a wave hack, over a longer period of time. How does that help teams to think more long term, or how does that make them think about their project as like a startup and keep iterating at it? And especially you can see we ran it for, I think it was like 8 weeks, I think. But if we across 8 weeks, you can see which teams are more serious, which ones keep coming back to build. You can see them progress, and you can get a better sense of like, these are teams that are proving that they have what it takes to like keep pushing a project forward and maybe have a higher potential to be a startup. And so you can kind of tell, and that puts us in a better place of like narrowing down like, okay, these are the teams that have shown that they can get users, they can keep building, they can improve, they can listen to feedback, they are committed to keep putting in effort into their project. And so it's easier for us to know where to direct our resources to help these teams, rather than like straight out of a 48-hour hackathon or straight out of a 1-month hackathon, where like, hey, we'll give you all these resources, and the teams are like, actually, I was here for the hackathon, but I wasn't actually here to build like a long-term project. And we're like, oh, okay, like different expectations, right? Whereas like with AKINDO, it's like we know that they're coming in with that mindset, and they prove it to us as well. So I think that was a really interesting format that we wanted to try out.
Okay, thank you. Like, what was the like most interesting project?
We had a few that so we took a slightly different approach, where we didn't start with a wave hack. We had a program that we wanted to run for the FileCoin on-chain cloud, which is for early builders on the FileCoin on-chain cloud. And we had selected a bunch of like 20 projects that we wanted to work with. And then we reached out to AKINDO to be like, can we run this program on your platform and simultaneously open it up to anybody else that wants to join, but be very explicit about us having a cohort that we had already selected. So our hypothesis was that having a base momentum of builders that we know are strong in the cohort will help to inspire more people that, they'll look at it and be like, this is what they're looking for. This is like what I should be like. If I want to join this cohort, this is the kind of project that I should be aiming to build. And so I can decide as a builder on AKINDO's community whether I want to join this cohort or not. And it did attract quite a few teams, and I think that was great. To answer your question, like, from the projects that we selected, there were a few great standout teams that we also brought with us to Buenos Aires. And this included teams like the FileCoin team, which is e-signatures on-chain. So you can actually do like a DocuSign type of e-signature, but on-chain. And it was like a very seamless platform, and they did really well. Another one was Chiching, which was initially meant to be GitHub contributions, rewarding GitHub contributions, so similar to like Only Dust or similar to the Protocol Labs DevGuild, but all automated within a platform. And then they have pivoted to using GitHub, but because a lot of different governance, like EIPs or FIPs and FileCoin use GitHub to make these governance decisions, they wanted to turn Chiching into a platform that incentivizes governance, input, and engagement. So that was really cool as well. And then I think that I think was really cool was like Groundline, which is like a knowledge graph for agents. So you can have your agent, the different agents that you run. If you're running a multi-agent environment, you could put all this onto a knowledge graph, or you could allow the knowledge graph to scrape your personal websites or your personal inbox and like different personal data sources to be able to build a knowledge graph that then you can give to an agent to use. And so all this was on chain, and all this was using FileCoin on-chain cloud, which I think was a really interesting like project that can be very useful to the AI market today. So I think that was also another really cool project from the ones that we had selected. Of course, we saw a few other new projects come out from the AKINDO batch, and I think like there was one project that was focused on recycling and how to create like a recycling economy with the FileCoin on-chain cloud and incentivization on chain. So that was really cool. There were quite a few other cool projects from the non cohort that we selected. But yeah, I think it was all up. I think we took in an additional about 10 to 15 teams, and we also gave out grants to that we didn't know at first when we started the cohort. And yeah, I think it's nice to see this project keep building like after 8 weeks, and they're still building, which is great.
Okay, thank you. After the Buildathon ends, how does FileCoin and Fil-B continue supporting teams that want to keep building?
Yeah, so I think like I shared earlier, like we're reaching out to these teams, we're reaching out to them to see how much they want to keep building in the new year, what their plans are. Some of them are applying for like bigger funding programs in the FileCoin ecosystem. So we are helping them with their proposals, helping to increase their chances of like getting the full grant amount that they need. We're also giving them advice on like product directions that they can take. They've also reached out to us to leverage the Protocol Labs network on like potential pilot customers that they can take on. So for example, we are trying to integrate the governance platform that I mentioned earlier into FileCoin's governance team. That is one pilot that's going on. We've also reached out to a few partners that can maybe take on the e-signature platform as well to integrate it. So yeah, I think these are how we're working with these teams, and we really want to get them into the GTM mode for 2026 just to validate their product in the market before they like reach out to start doing their pre-seed and Series A.
Okay, so what types of applications do you think are the best suited for FileCoin right now? You've seen like a lot of like different projects through Buildathons, but what do you think like maybe in 2026, like what types of application do you think are the best suited for FileCoin?
Different projects, I think one thing that we're very so in general, many different projects because storage can be used in many different ways. And now that we have enabled hot and cold storage on Filecoin, it's a lot. It covers a huge range of different projects, right? Anytime you're using data, if it's like anything bigger than megabytes of data, and you need more than what you can stuff into a block on, then I think Filecoin can really come in and really help there. Also because of the IPFS integration that we have now, it makes it a lot easier for people to use. Like IPFS has always been way more popular than Filecoin in terms of general debt usage. Like people love using IPFS, but now you have IPFS with guarantees on Filecoin and it's fully trustless. So that's great, right? And I think that's something that we think is going to expand to a lot of different types of dApps. But one thing that we are very focused on for the first half of 2026 is, so at Buenos Aires, we were part of the Trustless Agent Day. We've also done a collaboration with ENS where you can, pin a website to IPFS and have that IPFS link be called or CID be called through ENS so that you can bring it up on your website. So then you have actual persistent storage of your websites. With the, I don't know if you guys saw the Cloudflare outage, like this is something that, websites shut down, you couldn't use stuff, it's like situations that we want to avoid. So I think that would be a really cool one, but also because of the ENS collaboration, we've also been talking to the 8004 community of like, with the 8004 registry on Ethereum, where you're like registering agents and helping to improve agent reputation. These are like data that can be stored on Filecoin as well. So if you have a huge database of the entire registry, you can actually park it on IPFS that gets backed up to Filecoin. And that's something that without us even reaching out, like IPFS was considered as one of the options for storing this kind of data. So that's great. And also this can expand to more things in the agent stack. I think the agentic stack is something that we are very interested in the early 2026 on what Filecoin wants to focus on. Because the agents are huge. AI is changing everything, has changed everything today. More and more people are using agents, agent to agent, multi-agent environments, like basically agents everywhere. And what you really want of your agents is that you want to know that your data is, you might want to own the data in certain cases. And you might want to also have like lower cost of data storage, right, for your agents to function. So there are multiple ways that we can come into the stack, either with its reputation or maybe it's the data that they're sending. And other integrations that we can make into the Agent Zero SDK so that it's an easy plugin to have Filecoin be the storage layer for agents. So these are things that we're very interested in for the early half of 2026. The early bets that we're looking at are like maybe AI and robotics as well. Robotics is up and coming as a ecosystem, and many more projects are coming up, and there are huge amounts of data that all these robots need. So robotics is definitely something that we are very interested in, but very early stage that we're thinking about from the Filecoin side.
Okay, thank you. But like, how do you see Filecoin's role evolving within the broader Web3 stack over the next few years? Not only 2026, maybe 2030, or like after like next few years.
That's a hard question. It's hard because it's hard to predict where everything is going to move in Web3. I think, Filecoin is still today one of the largest decentralized storage networks. If Filecoin can also, now that it has hot storage enabled, if it can become the actual main data layer for the Web3 ecosystem and like to grow to support not just cold storage and institutional archival data, but also grow to support dApps and be something that can be that imagine if every dApp that you ran, you knew that you were going to be using Filecoin as storage, right? Rather than as Filecoin evolves as well, now that we have a cloud vision for Filecoin, which will include over time things like compute and networks and more components of the cloud that we need to build up. And this is not just coming from Filecoin, it's like Protocol Labs has a huge network of different DeepIn infrastructures. We're very plugged into the DeepIn space. If we can connect all these different parts together of like compute, networks, storage, all into a single system or a single stack, then that can evolve in a very, very big way in Web3, where you maybe don't even have to rely on AWS anymore. I mean, that's a very big claim, but like obviously that's the goal, right? Like you have a strong, pure, well-built alternative that you can use instead of AWS to run your dApps, which a lot of dApps in Web3 today still use. Right? So I think that's really the goal for us in the next 5 years. It's a huge technical mission and vision. But I think that's really where we want to evolve to, because that was the initial goal of Filecoin. And that's also like the reason I joined, right? The point is we need to provide alternatives today, as of today, there's nothing strong enough yet. And we are, there are many good storage platforms out there as well. It's not just us. And I think we're all working towards that goal. So I think in 5 years' time, if we can actually reach a point in time where like it's not just FileCoin, maybe it's also like Arweave, maybe it's also Fil-B, maybe it's also all these different storage platforms, but we all have a strong alternative to the current Googles and AWSs that everyone uses today. If that's the main thing that's being used in Web3, then I think that we will have hit our goal in 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It was like a very hard question. On a personal level, like what long-term impact do you want your work with FieldB to have on the ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. Also another hard question. I think impact-wise, I think if we can like again block builders, help people to grow, I would be really interested to see more builders become like take a path that is sustainable for them and not, I think for us, maybe I can talk about success, but I think not achieving success would look like not having builders find something sustainable or impactful for them to have by spending time in FileCoin. I want to make sure that like if builders spend time in FileCoin, it's something productive for them. And they can either, build their career from it, they can become a technical contributor, they can build a business, they can do something. And it gives them like network effects from spending their time on FileCoin. It doesn't only have to be FileCoin, it can be FileCoin, now there's cross-chain, FileCoin, and other things. I think to see that the impact that we want to create is for builders to really succeed in whatever that means for them. I think that to us is like, that's how we'll be really happy with what we're doing.
What keeps you motivated when working on a long-term public goods and infrastructure?
What keeps me motivated for public good work? I think what keeps me motivated is public good. So to define public good first in our context, public good is kind of like work that is important for a network to grow or an ecosystem to grow or to have like meaningful impact. Like these are important things, but they don't generate revenue. And so they become like a public good where it's like it's important to have, but it's not going to directly generate revenue as a business on its own. But we can contribute to revenue, for example. So maybe by doing, as we plan for 2026, the developer experience work that we do is going to help to grow the number of builders, the number of monthly active users, the number of like projects that are coming out of the ecosystem, and that contributes to revenue in the long term. So I think that's how I define public good. What motivates me to do this work is that I think it's important, and I think there's not many people that are able to do it. Not that they cannot do it. I think many people can do it, but I think it's hard it's been very interesting in the past 2 years to approach this new model in Protocol Labs or FileCoin, which is part of Protocol Labs, where we are no longer one organization. And I think when we were one organization, doing developer experience doesn't feel like public good because you're getting a salary and you're being paid by a company, right? So it's not really public good. But in the past few years, like approaching this new network model has been very interesting to me, where like you don't want a company that grows and grows and grows to become like 10,000 people, 20,000 people. You see one company that's been strong and then you split it up into many different smaller businesses that contribute to the network. And it's hard like to align what our goals are, what our KPIs are, what our like different motivations as different companies are. But then it in a way also sharpens the network's focus, because then you're only doing things when everyone and like multiple stakeholders and multiple companies can align on a goal, and that probably means that the goal is like really important. And so like public good in the past, and I know this is like a little bit different, but it's just that public good feels more like a public good when you're doing it as a company that is getting a grant rather than getting a salary from a company. And the reason why we keep doing it is because we know that we're aligned on a goal in Filecoin, and we know that to make that goal happen, somebody needs to do the developer experience work. I think that's why that's what motivates us to keep doing this public good work. And I know it's like it's not a clean answer, but to us, doing public good just feels very different, especially when you're doing it in this company or this like network of companies. It feels very different. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. So do you have any like personal goal for like 2026?
Personal goal, I think I think doing Fil-B and FileCoin as part of the work that as a part of the entire work that my team does is still something that we are going to keep doing. What I think I'm interested in for 2026 is that our company is also bigger than just Fil-B and FileCoin, which is a huge percent of our work, but we've also launched 2 of our own initiatives in the past year, this year. And that includes like us taking on Web3 Compass as a learning platform. So it's kind of like a Duolingo where there are like streaks for you to learn solidity and for you to learn different concepts in Web3 and different coding challenges in Web3 as well. So we want to, I think for me personally, would love to see that grow more. And we also launched our own hacker house called Loops. And that is exactly what we've been talking about on like a hacker house series that is very focused on building products and having good product foundations from like the early builder stage when you're like before you, and maybe you finish a hackathon, maybe you have an MVP, but how do you add on like product foundations like product design, product market fit, market research, design in general, UI, UX, all these different things, and user adoption strategies, funding strategies. Like how do you teach these things to a team or give them resources to do it so that they keep building, they're set up for success and they have that mindset to keep building. And so I would love to see these two things grow. I think that's my goal for 2026. And I think my team is awesome and I'm very excited to do it with them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have like any other builder activation plan for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of stuff. In FileCoin, we have a bunch of builder activations planned out. With FileCoin launching clouds launching early next year, we're probably going to be doing some builder activations in the Mu in April in Hangzhou, and then in New York for ETH Global and ETHConf, as well as very excited for DevConnect Mumbai. I think it's going to be crazy. So we have a bunch of builder activations built out. For next year, it's going to be a very busy year. Yeah.
What do you like to do, like when you have free time?
Yeah, I rest. I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know, do art, I guess, read, watch TV. Those are just some of my hobbies. I mean, a lot of time is spent on work. And when I'm not working, I try to make sure I'm like physically healthy and like working out and sleeping properly. But it's fun. It's been a lot of travel in the past year as well. So trying to use this time of not traveling to get back into my sports.
Okay, so do you watch some series or Netflix these days you can recommend?
Nothing I can recommend. I mean, everything is just, it's like old shows that I'm just watching again. Or I just cannot leave the TV on so I can like cook at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so my last question is, how was your experience working with AKINDO this time?
Yeah, it was great. I think the Kindle platform is cool. I think the idea is in the right direction. And also with the new developments that are coming 2026, I think it's a very natural next step for Kindle. So yeah, it was really good. And I think the team has a good strategy ahead. So I'm excited to see how it grows in 2026.
Okay, for builders watching, if you are exploring decentralized storage, on-chain services, or infrastructure level applications, FileCoin is an ecosystem worth paying attention to. So you can also join upcoming builder activation programs and buildathons through AKINDO, where builders can receive hands-on support and real opportunities to launch meaningful products. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the
This
next
is Builder Activation.
Bye.
Buildathon. 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 Build the next on-chain killer X. Builder Activation.